Good afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'm going to be reviewing to you Kingdom Hearts: Melody of Memory. Now, unlike the vast majority of people that'll review or play this game, I have never actually played a Kingdom Hearts game before. Although, to be fair, there are only 4 other Kingdom Hearts games available on Nintendo platforms at the time of this recording. So my thoughts are going to be more so the quality of the music and the rhythm experience as opposed to overt amounts of nostalgia for the franchise. But don't worry, if you stick around to the end of this footage, there will be some fanboyism, so I hope you're willing to bear with me until the end. So this is a collection of approximately 150 of the greatest songs from all throughout the Kingdom Hearts universe, going all the way back to the first game and even going up to Kingdom Hearts 3, which still isn't on a Nintendo platform. Overall, the selection of music is really great, and there's a good number of orchestra pieces to keep someone like me really satisfied. Thankfully, since Kingdom Hearts is a series that's in collaboration with Disney and Pixar, that allowed for some songs from some of my favorite Disney and Pixar movies to make it in as well. So being able to have Let It Go and Circle of Life, just to name 2, available whenever I want to listen to them in addition to all these other legendary tunes was just mind-blowing, even to the fact where it kind of drove my sister crazy with how mind-blowing it was. So the premise is that while you're playing a song, there are 3 different types of rhythm games, for lack of a better word. There's the field battle, which is what you're seeing now, boss battles, and memory dives, the last of which I'm not going to show you guys because it uses real-time footage from the Kingdom Hearts games to sort of like reminisce about the games, and I figured that might cause a couple of spoilers to some of you. But the gist is that you see the video playing out, and your job is to hit the buttons as they show up while you're like sort of diving through it. Now when you're in the field, your characters will be running along this track and they'll attack the enemies to the rhythm of the music. The good news is that this is a more or less one-button scheme where it doesn't really matter what button you press for most of the rhythm nodes, but if you have multiple enemies or objects lined up in a row, then you have to press 2 of the action buttons. And you press X if you want to do a special ability with the ability crystal. You also have the ability to jump and glide at any time, which was really fun on the earlier difficulties, but would sometimes cause my controller to not react as quickly to upcoming obstacles if I just wanted to have fun. So I would say really only experiment with the gliding mechanic if you're playing on beginner difficulty. However, the graphics in this section are really bland most of the time. It does get better as you progress towards the later Kingdom Hearts games, especially Kingdom Hearts 3. However, it's kind of a Square tradition where their gameplay doesn't really match up with the quality of their cutscenes. The character models look okay, but the actual background environments and enemy animations are just so low effort and feel like they would look totally fine in like the PlayStation 2 GameCube era of gaming. However, that being said, the production values for literally everything else are outstanding, because when we get into boss battles, while the boss models are still very low quality, the animations are incredible. It's just a shame that while you're in the midst of it, you can't really pay attention, but the choreography of some of these fights are some of the best I've ever seen, and it's really nice that I have all this footage captured, because now that I don't have to pay attention to all the notes coming at me, I can be like, wow, that was actually a really well choreographed fight. Now, you do have leveling up mechanics, as is typically the case with a Square game, and in my opinion, that kinda is where this game falls apart. You see, in most rhythm games, you kinda just want to play it for the songs, but Square decided, hey, you can level up and get more defense and health and all that, and it's like, that's probably good if you're insistent on playing on the hardest difficulty. But for most players, they're not even going to get close to running out of health. Unless if you're really bad at music games. As even the beginner difficulty takes a little bit of getting used to by rhythm game standards. However, it didn't feel nearly as intrusive as it was in the Theatrhythm Final Fantasy games. What did was when they introduced synthesizing. Basically, yeah, no, not that kind of synthesizer where it plays ugly MIDI tunes, although those are still present here, unfortunately. To get more items, this includes items that you can use on the field to offset the difficulty, as well as collection pieces for the gallery. You have to collect materials that are dropped from the enemies in the songs and fuse them together. Now, this seems really cool, but one area where I think they went a little bit overboard is that you can fuse materials to create new songs in your soundtrack player, which is bizarre. Like, wouldn't a simple checklist be more than enough? Now, the main way that you unlock songs, besides this very bizarre, convoluted method of grinding in a music game, you play World Tour, which is where you're in an airship and you move your party from along the Kingdom Hearts timeline, as confusing as it is. And there are usually a variety of ways that you can approach the songs, while somehow the developers managed to make a good difficulty progression, even though they're strictly going by the chronological order of when the Kingdom Hearts games take place. And then you'll be given missions during this mode to get more stars that you can use to proceed further into the map. A lot of times these missions I felt boiled down to just get good at the song, as opposed to missing notes, and it's like, I'm pretty sure there's no one that's going to lose a music game on purpose. Although a few of them were interesting, such as make sure you jump over all ranged attacks as opposed to just staying in a gliding animation. And these missions didn't feel too hard, while at the same time usually the last mission would be the one that would test your abilities. Overall, I found I didn't have to grind too many times with these missions, as most of the time the game was more than generous with the few that I was able to complete just by naturally being good. It was also a good way to see how the series evolved musically, as Kingdom Hearts 1 kinda had an insistence on relying on MIDI when they really should have been much grander, but then as you get closer to Birth by Sleep in Kingdom Hearts 3, you see, man, the quality has exponentially improved, and these backgrounds start getting much, much better. Now, I can't comment on the actual song list myself, but I do think it's admirable that this game has a couple of neat tricks to ensure that even newcomers like me are at least somewhat aware of what's going on in the Kingdom Hearts universe. At select intervals, cinematics will play that give a brief overview of what's going on in the current game that's being referenced in the songs. So while I get the basic gist of who these guys like Sora and Keyblade Masters are, it doesn't fully explain it, but it does give away a significant amount of spoilers. So you might want to skip these cutscenes if you're the type of person that is playing this for the music like me and you really don't want to know what's going to happen next. However, this might also be handy if there's a particular odd game that you just don't want to get, like Kingdom Hearts Recoded, for example. That is over within like one video. There's also new story content that arrives near the end that sort of bridges the cliffhanger ending of Kingdom Hearts 3 and kind of hints at the possibility of a Kingdom Hearts 4 in the future. The reason why I'm fairly confident about this is because this isn't the first time that Square has done such a thing. When they re-released The World Ends With You Final Remix on Switch, that was teasing what we now know as Neo: The World Ends With You. Speaking of The World Ends With You, they also have the Dream Drop Distance remix of Calling in here, which I'm going to have played in its fullness at the end of this footage if I don't talk long enough to just naturally get to it. Now, you might have noticed that pretty much all of these songs that I'm selecting are orchestral, and that just happens to be my preference, but that's far from the only type of music that's present here. Remember, we're going from all of the Kingdom Hearts games that have been released so far. So you'll get, the MIDI tracks from Kingdom Hearts 1, the more Tron-like tunes from games like Recoded, and they usually do a good job of matching the Disney world that they're inspired by. Some songs will even allow you to take a character from that particular Disney universe and they will help in the battle against the enemies. It's really cool to see characters like Peter Pan, Ariel, and Simba helping out in these battles, even if their renders are extremely low quality. It's also really nice that there are even memory dives that take place within a Disney universe, especially Let It Go, which is basically a complete reenacting of the original song from Frozen. And unlike Circle of Life, which is truncated, it's the full version, so now I guess I can get rid of my Frozen soundtrack CD. Just kidding, that's the only song from Frozen that I've seen, so that's a bummer. Overall, the amount of Disney fan service, wonderful music, and explanation of what's going on is nice for Kingdom Hearts newcomers like me, but I definitely think the target audience is definitely gonna be an actual fan. I just happen to pick this up because I'm a sucker for music collections and in-game soundtracks, which this game thankfully provides, with a bevy of collectible cards and character models, and any song that you play in World Tour is added to the soundtrack player so that you can just listen to it like it's an iPod. Again, when will I get with the times and start using the more proper term for all of these? Now, since this game came out in 2020, I am conflicted about how to rate it, because on one hand, it should be amazing that it's more Kingdom Hearts lore to add to the existing treasure trove of games, and so the extra epilogue should be really good for fans that are yearning for, what the heck, Kingdom Hearts 3 was a disappointment. And I also am not a previous fan of the series, so it's not just me saying, oh yay, it's that legendary song. But on the other hand, I had a blast with this game, and most of the songs I found were at the very least good, if not the perfect orchestral stuff that I usually like. So I guess I'll split my rating in half. Mind you, it's a joke anyway. On one hand, if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan, and you really love the music and want a good place for all of it to be gathered in one game, then I would say this is probably close to an 18 out of 20, as the loyalists of the series are going to get a lot of memorable moments and fan service. However, if you're not a Kingdom Hearts fan like me, and you're only in it for the music, I would say it's probably closer to actually a 19 out of 20. Because not being limited to our nostalgia is not going to have us saying things like, oh no, they didn't include that amazing song, and we can just enjoy the tracks that are on play here. Well, there's nowhere near as many as Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's also pulling from multiple franchises. The amount of songs that are here are still very impressive. There's approximately 150 of them, and I still haven't even unlocked everything. And since this is a Square Enix game, they're probably going to have DLC along the road, just like they did with the Theatrhythm games. So either way, whether you're a fan or not, I definitely think this is a good game for rhythm game enthusiasts. And even if you're not a rhythm enthusiast, the easiest difficulty should be enough to allow you to unlock a good majority of the good songs. So with that, thank you very much for watching. If there's anything I left out, please let me know in the comment section so that I can correct that, as well as if you have any other critiques about the video. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and if you're pumped for The World Ends With You 2 coming out, then stay tuned for me playing Calling. Bye-bye for now.